publisher, Jen Harris, couldn't be here tonight. So she asked me to welcome everyone on behalf of JackLeg Press and to celebrate these three wonderful poets that we're publishing this year or in 2023. And we'd especially like to congratulate Jessica Cuello on Yours Creature. It's a wonderful book right here. I've said wonderful 3 times. That tells you how much I love these guys. I just read this. It's so amazing. And it was just released yesterday. And so heartfelt congratulations to Jessica on creating an incredible piece of work celebrating Mary Shelley and all women. And thank you to all of you and welcome, and thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.
I'm Suzanne Frischkom, and I'm here to introduce Simone Muench, JackLeg's stellar poetry editor. In addition to her role as poetry editor, Simone is a celebrated poet in her own right. She's the author of 6 books of poetry, as well as 6 chapbooks, and she is the recipient of numerous awards, including an NEA Fellowship and an Arts Achievement Award from the Meyer Foundation. And I am delighted to turn the event over to Simone.
So the layout is we have 3 readers, and then we have Dorianne, and then we have Jessica. I think that's right. Sorry, we have Brittney, Rita, Dorianne, and Jessica. We'll close out with Jessica since it's her book we're celebrating. But first up, I'm going to introduce Brittney Corrigan, who has her book coming out, I believe, in July. Yes, Brittney? Okay. Recalling Joni Mitchell's famous lyric, "They paved paradise, put up a parking lot," Corrigan's solastalgia is a heart-wrenching and harrowing overview of environmental destruction. Though it is an ominous exploration of the Anthropocene era and the ways humans have contributed to the changing climate and landscape, it honors all the strange and wondrous creatures that humans both intentionally and unwittingly are shoving towards extinction's cliff. The use of the imperative and subjunctive threaded throughout is significant in that the manuscript commands, requests, and wishes. The use of "let us" acknowledges the collective and invites community and collaboration with all living things, whereas the use of "may you" becomes an invocation against extinction. As Corrigan simply states, "May you outlast us." Solastalgia is an eloquent tribute to all the awe-inspiring flora and fauna that we have failed as a species. I love this book not only for its incisive eco-eye, but also for its dazzling language terrains. Using language as the tool to effect change, these poems make you want to be better and do better. Please welcome Brittney Corrigan.
Thank you so much, Simone. I am so honored and humbled to be in the company of these fantastic poets tonight. And thanks so much to all of you for coming to listen to us. So I'm just going to read you a handful of poems from Solastalgia, which, yes, is coming out in July. Try to give you a flavor of the manuscript. So I'm going to start with one I call my World Without Us poems, which are threaded throughout. And this one is called The Strip Mall Changes Its Mind. At first, it took comfort in the sense from body beyond. Floral powders and cinnamon lotions mingled in the stuffy gym. It watched over so many unfooted shoes. Bright dresses called out in bold prints to suits in the dry cleaner's rack, still rows of ghosts. Then the grief set in. The conveyor belt of Sushi Town twisted like an empty gut. Its capillaries of people gone, quiet at the heart. Undone, it hardly noticed windows shattering, walls crumbling as trees limbed their way in. sunlight on every rain-warped floor. Missing the humans with their electric bodies, wires and pipes spilled out between unmoved beams. Tireless beaks bored holes in everything. But the moss was so soft, it made the unframing bearable. Signs unlatched, bedded down in tendrilled leaves. When the fox moved in, birthed 2 russet kits in a thicketed shopping cart, wind like a breath, a sigh, rose past the splintered rafters, the unlit lights. And so it happened, the forgetting. Painless, its tender reclaiming, dangling ceiling tiles, sloppy with stars. So there's also a series of what I call unloved animal poems. I happen to be a fan of pretty much all animals. So this one is Opossum Nocturne. Perhaps with poor night vision that keeps us from seeing how you preen our streets, devouring what the sunlit crows have left behind. We misunderstand your mouth, crowded with keen-edged teeth that dissect and undo the flesh. We are too squeamish, too unbrave to carry with our human hands. We should envy your thanatotic form, how death visits you, but then retreats. Why do we not adore your prehensile tail, how you dangle and brace and grip like the acrobats we embellish with sequins and tulle? The darkness inside your pouch, the nyctophilic eyes ripening within should allure us like the night sky we wish watched over our city noise. The one so thick with stars, we're less blind for its light.
Brittney, Brittney, I'm gonna ask everyone to mute. I don't have the ability to mute everyone, so there are a few people that are unmuted and we can hear your video. So if you could please mute yourself, that would help us hear the readers better. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Simone. I was going to say that. Although it was nice to kind of hear little people out there because I've been doing in-person readings again. Now back to Zoom, I'm like, it's so quiet out there, but I'm glad you're all here. So this one was written, this is one of the extinction poems in the collection, and it's called The Last 2 Northern White Rhinos Discuss the Birds and the Bees. There's only 2 northern white rhinos left on the planet. They're both female. The Kenyan sun is sinking round yellow fruit in a sky stained purple and red. Fatu, my daughter, says Najin, her horns beginning to silhouette like the whistling acacia trees, flies leave-taking from her thick gray skin. Are you feeling well again after the harvesting? Fatu's backside is sore, her belly still hollow. Mother, she says, I wish I could carry the next of us the way you carried me. Will they sculpt my calf from mud, fasten on ears of diamond euclid leaves? Najin lowers her wrinkled snout to the cooling earth, considers her answer through a mouthful of grass, watches the guards patrolling with long, bright guns. They will make another of us with frozen ghosts, says Najin. She misses Sunni and Sudan, the smell of their hides in the equatorial heat. Our southern sisters will carry the new ones for us. The new ones will be a storm. So throughout the collection, there are these little poems called the Anthropocene Blessings that I've written for a variety of different endangered species, animal and plant. So this one is Anthropocene Blessing, California Condor. King of birds, you of the 9-foot wingspan, you who glide for hours on currents of air without a single beat, thousands of feet above the leaden earth. Scavenger ancestor, only surviving member of your genus, longest lived. May you feast on the flesh of the dead as you toss their spirits up to the sky. May the carrion ghosts look down upon your unplumaged head, your black-feathered sacred form, and be healed of all that stalked them in this world. May you not be poisoned by our buckshot, seething in each carcass we leave behind. May you outgrow our captivity to hatch your single eggs in mountain cliff caves, giant redwood trees. New world vulture, may your bulbous, wrinkled visage remember how you soared over mammoths. May you be revered as virtuous, as rising back from the brink, as gathering your flock around the fallen. May you take death in your mouth and find it sweet. Find that it sustains. All right, so 2 more little ones for you. So I have an obsession with the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, which is in Svalbard, Norway, and is keeping samples of seeds from all over the planet in case of disaster. So this is vaulted seeds after the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Hoarded at the heart of an Arctic mountain, within an archipelago of snow, an ark of seeds. Cocooned against soil, nuclear bodies hunker and wait for some future hungerscape. A gathering of crops, varied faces folded into foil, shuttered from the earth. Lentil, dark and round and pebble smooth, barley's slender husk of an eye. Each wrinkled chickpea, the embryonic head of a bird. Sister seeds in Aleppo, shelter abandoned in the rubble of war. The snow is a silence except for how the seeds call out to one another across landmasses that shift and warm. Svalbard reindeer swivel their ears to listen. Foxes pause ghost-like on the permafrost. With one quadrate eye, the vault reflects a frigid blue sea. Ringed seals bob and dive among the glassy flows. The vault's stone hull juts like a shipwreck in the drifted ice while polar bears chuff and lumber past the door. Inside, thousands upon thousands of promises to feed what may remain. Doomsday, its other name, because we've already planted what's to come. All right, so I'm going to leave you with a little bit of hope at the end. There's a lot of darkness in here, but I think there's a lot of hope too. So this is miraculous. When all the news is bad or worse, my ears ringing like a din of night insects just swelter and drone, I quiet my bones with the thought of quaking aspen. Trembling giant grove of thousands of trees, all with a single system of roots. 1,000,000 years old, bright fluttering of gold against blue. And when I think I can't take in another sorrow, each a stone stacked up like a cairn on my heart, I remember how the jaws of a snake unhinge. Its mouth opens and opens to enfold what's impossibly large, patient swallowing followed by a length of rest. And when what we've done can't be undone, hope just a speck on the future's woolly back, I jumpstart my wonder with this. The snow in Antarctica is sprinkled with the dust of ancient stars. While we hunted and gathered, the galaxy glittered and lay itself down in our light. Thank you.
Just breathtaking, Brittney. That last poem, wow. Thanks for the uplift. And for those of you who haven't heard Brittney Corrigan or heard her tonight and loved her work, her book, Solastalgia, will be out in July. Next up is Rita Mookerjee. And I believe your book is coming out November, Rita? Rita Mookerjee's False Offering, while providing a trenchant critique of the oppressiveness of white space, is also glittery, culinary, sumptuous, and scythe sharp, shot through with equal parts nectar and venom. Mookerjee's poems pirouette with muscular grace in a kaleidoscopic whirl of myth and alchemy, gods and feast, rot and rose gold. False Offering is a feminist ledger of, quote, battle armor meeting ballet. Like a medieval tapestry, it is piped through with an elaborate galaxy of night violence, rosewater, bone dust, snakes and shibari, origami, and the KKK. It is a rare book in that even while flipping the middle finger, it has its hands held out in tenderness to those in need. Please welcome Rita Mookerjee.
Thank you, Simone. Good evening, all. Thank you so much for making time for poetry in our strange and often terrible social climate. And thank you, Brittney. Those were really exciting, and I really appreciate your note of hope, especially because it also had bugs. So my first poem has bugs, so that wasn't planned, y'all, but like, if this was an in-person reading, I'd be like, and because we're just so in sync as a press, we can kind of always make these connections together. Congratulations to my dear, dear, dear pressmate, Jessica. I'm so excited for this collection, and I'm just so joyful to be here to celebrate with you. So it was just Mother's Day, and I know we have quite a few mothers up in the room tonight. And for those of you who no longer have your moms with you or have experienced pain on the topic of motherhood, I send you love and peace. This poem is about like puberty, which is, in my view, one of the worst things that could ever happen to anyone ever. And so that's my creature contribution, is my pubescent self. So this is half ode to the rope swing I never climbed. There's a length of old rope tied to an elm on the bank of Fishing Creek. I used to pass it on drives with my family. Plenty of kids jump from it, but I was never invited to go to Fishing Creek or to the dollop of earth in the middle, nicknamed the beach. Even if I had been invited, I would not have gone. I knew from science camp how thick the water was with crayfish, tadpoles, and countless larvae like cyborgs in their brown armor, antennae, and needling legs. Even if I had been invited, I would not have jumped. The only brown kid on the bank, too worried about a graceless descent into the mud, chalky feet calloused from ballet, arms crossed to protect breasts that took too long to arrive. Though I never tried the swing, I admired that someone with a ladder and great care knotted it thrice at the base to support your feet as you swung. I picture myself there, greening rope in hand. I am fragile, like the mayfly hatchling, with no love for stagnant pools. I look to the sun, who knows that when it matters, I will choose flight. Thanks. Very, very little, teeny, tiny poem. Look at her on the page. Oh, so little. So yours, Creature, is really important in recognizing women. And while this poem is called Men, it's about women. Men are the sort of people who chisel butter from its block and with a short blunt knife pummel it back and and forth across a bready path until only its stain is left. It never occurs to them to cut off a clean square and heat it for one moment. That butter melts, simply asking to be poured. I told you it was a quick one. This is probably this most recent move of mine, I think is move number 6 in 4 years. Y'all, I'm done. Like, I'm not moving for a really long time. I live in Massachusetts, and I really love it here, especially because I'm close to some of my classmates. So this is me bitching about my move. It's called Ode to Bathroom Mirror Altars I've Built for Myself. I'm moving back east to a basement studio that barely holds my furniture, but you know what? It's got a closet just for my makeup. The bathroom lighting is exquisite. I know it's hardly an upgrade, but the planet is on fire. I'd rather stay inside, loving myself at the medicine cabinet, glowing tears of glass potions and indulgences, and there I am, the patron saint of queer brown femmes, in my cold sepulcher, painting myself to life so I can stomp into the day and silently tell the world not to fuck with me. My eyebrows are Disney villain pointy for a reason. I can do them on the train. Forget a mirror. My hands are steady like a baseline from all my practice in foggy compacts and bumpy bus rides. Listen, I'm downsizing. I leave my small vanity near the alleyway, its surface scuffed by bobby pins and blunts rolled in pink paper from acrylic towers of mocha lipsticks less than half a shade apart. I'll miss my vanity, but I don't need it. No one can tell if you get ready curved over a single stall sink with a spider web mirror, or if you beat your face beatified and ring light flanked by cherry perfect studio bulbs sitting in a wingback chair, tufted blush velvet. This is about the finished product. Big reveals with feather fans shimmying. I silently thank my vanity for its service, but it was never made for a gay millennial femme. A woman says to me, you'll outgrow all of that. But I know the truth. To me, every painted lash line is a landscape. Each brushstroke on my face is an ancient ritual in repetition. So the next time I'm flush with cash, I'm buying booze, lights, and more lipstick. I'm going out screaming in full glam. Thanks, y'all. Okay, last one. I'm feeling spicy, y'all. And those of you who know me in real life are like, yeah, what else is new? But I'm feeling exceptionally spicy tonight. It's kind of like retreat season. So a lot of writers are hearing back about what they're doing with their summer plans. And we all apply for these fellowships and these retreats. And, you know, you give your heart to people. And I can't help but notice patterns in who is rejecting me and why, and who they're accepting instead. And I think something that's really challenging if you are an Asian American or Pacific Islander person right now is if you don't write on like war or family history, you're kind of shit out of luck. Like I'm like, I like happy poems about my vanity and lipstick and like making fun of men and butter. And they're like, get the hell out of here. Like nobody wants to hear that shit. So this is a poem about some of that frustration. And this will be my last poem. Thank you again for coming tonight. This is called, Is It Even a Diaspora Poem Without the Immigrant Parent Story? After Grace Q song. Make sure they were poor. And even if not, make sure they were poor at some point. This is especially important if you are Brahmin. No one wants to hear about the white people who aren't kind to you in the airport. You're in the fucking airport. Do you hear yourself? If your parents love each other, say that. If your parents do not love each other, lie. If your parents were in an arranged marriage, you'll need a good vignette about them bonding over Blade Runner in theaters, blasting Foreigner on the radio in the sedan given to them by kindly neighbors. White people in the 80s were pretty cool. Maybe because you could still buy Quaaludes and Coke Uncut. Make sure at least one of your parents has a charming talent or hobby like sewing or violin. Don't make them athletes, bankers, chefs, or soldiers, nothing too aggressive or ambitious. Erase the part where your mother gives up her career to care for the children. Say she only ever wanted to be a mom. Don't mention her Olympic caliber track records and omit the botched knee surgery. No worries if your parents didn't party or do any cool drugs. Americans like their immigrants squeaky clean. Leave out the part about your mom throwing up on New Year's Eve, how your dad had to place her limp in the shower as there was nowhere else to sit in the studio apartment. If you had a violent childhood, remove all the kitchen utensils from all the fights but one. Be sure to mention the war, any war, just as long as there's war. At your book signing, white people will ask you if your parents are proud. You'll loudly say something like, ha ha, yeah, in their own way. Your cover needs no less than 3 of the following: paisley, peacock feathers, Ganesh, gold leaf, Buddha, an oil lamp, incense, the ocean, and or your mother and father waving goodbye. Thank you.
Well, I love your spirit, Rita, and I want to hear that shit. And I also, my son is here. I think this is the first poetry reading of mine he's attended, and I saw his face smiling really big while you read. Brittney, it was wonderful to hear you read. I am going to introduce Dorianne Laux. Dorianne Laux' 6th collection, Only as the Day is Long, New and Selected Poems, was named a finalist for the 2020 Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. Her 5th collection, The Book of Men, was awarded the Patterson Prize. Her 4th book of poems, Facts About the Moon, won the Oregon Book Award and was shortlisted for the Lenore Marshall Poetry Prize. Laux is also the author of Awake, What We Carry, a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award, Smoke, as well as a fine small press edition, The Book of Women. She is the co-author of the celebrated text, The Poet's Companion, A Guide to the Pleasures of Writing Poetry. And two small things I'd like to add on a personal level. Dorianne selected my book Liar for the Barrow Street Prize. I almost didn't send there, but I saw her name, so I sent, with fingers crossed. And I don't want to be too effusive, but it was deeply validating for me. And I kind of carry that around when I have doubt, because I've loved Dorianne's poems for a long time. I've heard her read 3 times, twice in Syracuse, and she may not know that because I didn't go up to her. And every time I hear her read, I cry because her poems move me so much. So I'm really thrilled that she agreed to read with these JackLeg Press writers tonight. And I'm now going to mute myself. Welcome, Dorianne Laux.
Thank you, sweetie. It's so nice to see you. And I'm so happy for this new book. There's nothing better than a poet that keeps writing, right? And so congratulations to you many times over, but especially today. And thank you to these other readers who were just spectacular. And the kind of worry about, oh, the editors only want this or this. You've only got to find one that loves it. And and it will happen, right? You know, they'll see it for what it is. And so I thought I would read from a new book that's coming out in January of 24. That sounds so weird, 24. But it's called Life on Earth. And so I thought I'd read 3 poems from it. 2 of them are about my mother. So, you know, we're staying in the mother mode. And this first one is called Spirit Level, which is the little balance thing that you put when you're doing construction to keep things level. Spirit level. And then there's a little epigraph by Gary Snyder. When making an axe handle, the pattern is not far off. Now, of course, this assumes that you're making an axe handle with an axe. Never heard of that, but if Gary says it's so, I believe him. Spirit level. My mother was either horizontal on the couch or vertical, a plumb line from her spine to the top of her head to the ceiling that spins when she drinks. Alcohol and an air bubble trapped, sealed, and fixed inside her, her face carved from wood, a tear gliding slowly down the curve of her cheek. My mother was once a spirit in this world. Once she breathed for me, above me, beside me, behind me. Now I feel her warm breath on my neck summer nights, peering over my shoulder as I write every poem, whispering, "Let me in." I let her in. I remember every time she picked me up or set me down, put me to bed or woke me from dreams. And now I see how my whole life has been a dream, one she built for me from the ground up. Her daughter, my mother, the axe, beautiful tool with which she shaped me. A house much like the one she lived in, but smaller, fewer rooms, a tiny, unusable attic, and a cluttered basement. I let her in, like she let me in. She became my carpenter, stonemason, and bricklayer, piling me up cell by cell, the blade that shaped my legs, my arms, my surveyor, millwright. She used herself as a template, her genes tough, her organs elastic, her eyes and nose, forehead and mouth. And when her body, from which my body was made, slipped into the hot retort, I burned too. She refused the beveled casket, the oiled mahogany box, last drawer for the dead, wanted only the fury of fire, the blue-white flames unmaking her with their licking tongues. House her grandmother built, and her grandmother before her, all of them giving what they had been given. The hardwood floors, staircases and banisters, their deepest cupboards, their heavy doors flung wide so the breeze I would be could blow through. So many of the books in this, and many of the poems in this book are for my mother, as was the last 20 poems in my last book. And many poems before that. My mother was always my muse. But this is a poem about my brother, and a brother I lost at a very young age. His car was broken down on a highway and he was hit and the driver ran. So we never knew how he died or who killed him. But this is called Winter Brother. These nights I walk out and look up at Orion, my winter brother, spellbound each time I trace him to wholeness, from the star on his right shoulder to the star on his left, down to form his torso, lower down his little skirt. I know his right hand holds a club, but I replace it with 2 splayed arrows pointing up. In his left, a lion's pelt that for me becomes a bow. From hunter to archer, just like that. And why not? Whoever made him up is lost to history's shimmering distance. And I'm here now in my dark backyard, a splash of ghost sibling lilies glowing at my feet. I like to think he's my older brother who died far from home on a lonely road, his broken body found in a muddy gutter, swollen with rain. That's how it is down here on the death-packed earth, where nothing is eternal. The body's buried haunch to haunch beneath the indifferent dirt. I remember his handwriting on a postcard, the lines squashed between the address and the card's cut edge. I miss you. I love you. I saw some sights today. On the other side, a wall of etched bricks, a statue of Karl Marx's fat head, his beard of gray stone. When he died, I felt alone. Some part of me went cold, some echo following me like a false star. So I lifted my brother into the sky, where I could ride on his belt as he strode over the 7 continents, sharing an eyedropper of water between us. And this is the title poem of the book. I was going to look it up by just putting life, but I have so many instances of life in my manuscript. Here it is. Okay, so this is the title poem, Life on Earth. It was great because I got a title for a book, which didn't hamper me in any way. You know, sometimes you write a book and you think, well, with this title, I can't really put that poem in it, or this doesn't quite work with the, you know, you feel like you have to do something to hold it all together. And when I found the title for Life on Earth, I thought this is great because everything, any poem you could ever write is about life on Earth. So everything went in. Life on Earth. The odds are we should never have been born. Not one of us. Not 1 in 400 trillion to be exact. Only one among the 250 million released in a flood of semen that glides like a glassine limousine filled with tadpoles of possible people, one of whom may or may not be you. A being made of water and blood. A creature with eyeballs and limbs that end in fists. A you with all your particular perfumes, the chords of your sinewy legs singing as they form, your organs humming and buzzing with new life, moonbeams lighting up your brain's gray coils, the exquisite hills of your face, the human toy your mother longs for, your father yearns to hold, the unmistakable you who will take your first breath, your first step, bang a copper pot with a wooden spoon, trace the lichen growing on a boulder you climb to see the wild expanse of a field, the one whose heart will yield to the yellow forsythia, named after William Forsythe. Not the American actor with piercing blue eyes, but the Scottish botanist who discovered the buttery bells on a highland hillside, blooming to beat the band, zigzagging down an unknown Scottish slope. And those are only a few of the things you will one day know, slowly chipping away at your ignorance and doubt. You who were born from ashes and will return to ash. When you think you might be through with this body and soul, look down at an anthill or up at the stars. Remember your gambler chances, the bounty of good luck you were born for. Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited to listen to Jessica.
Thank you, Dorianne. That was just dazzling. Wow, every single one of those poems. And shout out to you also for the Poet's Companion, which I've been using for probably 15 years. Thank you so much. So our last reader, our finale, whose book just came out, is Jessica Cuello. And I just love this book. I am so thrilled it is out in the world. Unlike some project books, Cuello's Yours Creature transcends its ostensible subject matter, spinning outward into issues related to feminism, textuality, motherhood, and monstrosity. Using Mary Shelley as the spinal column for the book, while employing the epistolary form to establish intimacy and immediacy, Cuello navigates themes of creation, violence, grief, transformation, and lineage. These are heart-wrenching missives that unfurl with exquisite monstrosities like, quote, "My brain was a carnation on a stem made, my God, a father, look at me. And I'm sewn from gut to brain with scraps of men. And my own afterbirths came out like floors of flesh pink animals." The title, Yours Creature, acknowledges the epistolary nature of these poems while highlighting the complexity of Mary Shelley as both creator and creature. This book is one that, to employ Shelley's own words, disturbs with profane fingers the tremendous secrets of the human frame. Please join me in welcoming Jessica Cuello.
Thank you so much, Simone. And thank you for giving my book a home at JackLeg Press. And thanks to all the, it just feels good to be among all of the poets, Brittney, Rita, Suzanne, and Melissa. I've been writing a very long time and working very hard a long time, but I've been a little bit isolated. And I wrongly believed that was the way to do it. And I could not have been more wrong. So I'm just happy to be here. And I'm going to read the old school right out of the book. And as Simone's referenced, this is a book of epistolary poems in the voice of Mary Shelley. And the first few that I'm going to read are addressed to her mother, the feminist and activist Mary Wollstonecraft, who died 13 days after she was born from an infection. Weird little detail, they then sent in puppies to nurse at her breasts because they thought the nursing puppies would expel the placenta. And she actually died because the doctor, they didn't know to wash hands, so he pulled the placenta out, and that's what killed her. Dear mother, I wanted to crawl back into the black interior of you, womb scratched by an animal, but they wouldn't let me. I hung apart like gallows men, dangling for sweet touch. A line from the red radius of your womb went dark. That night, the whole of London raised its eyes to watch the comet pass, except for us. Instead, my courage cry and snarl, my cuss, my cut and run, my cutting tooth, made death a custom house, your daughter, Mary Shelley. This poem has a reference to her father, Godwin, who is also a writer and scholar. That's why Percy Shelley showed up at their house. Dear mother, I watched G's fingers on the page, neck with a faint line, neck you love, so I love it too. He is the glaze through which I see the sun. We call the goat's beard in our field, sweet meadow, go to bed at noon, and wise father men. I touch the feathered heads to feel the god of it. At Chalk Farm, we drink the cream of syllabubs. Sister holds my arm, But I am the apple of his eye. I am the reader of his work. His frown can collapse my spine. His grief for you becomes a pillar my attention winds onto. Are you mad that I took your... G is mad with his glacial love and becomes more so despite my maniacal reading toward love. A child can kill its mother, baby wet and monstrous, slipping with eyes opened, black and white, the stewed creation, not asking to be born, but requiring. M. This opens with a quote from Coleridge, who used to hang out in their house when they were kids. The cadaverous silence of Godwin's children is quite catacombs. Dear mother, silence was my pride, my object's stillness, the quiet prize. My brain was a carnation on a stem, made my God of a father look at me. Quiet petals and silver pages. I meant to read until I was his perfect daughter, but P put one hand beneath my smock and all the untouched years responded. Godwin had nothing to hold me with. I didn't know he'd snap me like a stem and toss me on a pile of exile. He was my God, first partner, the sun to my green tissue. He sent me letters with formal closings, as though I was still plicate in my room, leaf ribs pointed toward him, plumule hidden from all but him. Mother, you didn't raise me. Mary Shelley. Dear mother, scratch beneath the surface of a man and there's no help. P disappears when babies die. There are so many tasks. Father hated me for being sad. I pursued ideas like a horse, a dog, always behind, raised by a dictum, but not a man. I was a tent stitch on the pocket of his mind, a grafted cut in his bark of book. I cried in the open, less girl than gnome, when the bell at the cow's neck rang 10, 10, 10, and I took my first affection from her wet black eye. Yours as ever and unmothered, Mary. Dear Rejection, 1815. In threes they came, the mother, the father, the holy lover. One by one they cut me loose. The first went underground without me. The second couldn't bear to touch me. I was monstrous, toddling from bed with open mouth, a devil girl with spindly neck. The third was a boy who touched my thigh to prove that I was nectar made, my girlhood gone. He fled whenever I felt too much. Who can love a second time? His face was the only male face. Absence always could subsume me, powered as it was by the first rejection, God's holy three of no, no, never. Yours, as I have always been, Mary Shelley. This next one has and opens with a line from one of her letters. Dear mother, I had a dream that my little baby came to life again. What is it to make a life that dies? Like God, it cannot stand to stay. Cabbage leaves are soft like cloth and smell of tea. I wore them on my breasts like medicine. The earthy taste of tea made me hate my flesh. I didn't know if I was made of anything else. Her 13 days were the only time, and they had no measure. Clouds swirled like bands of twisted cloth. I'm sorry to burden you. As a child, I was spooked by the empty hall when Father moved us in. At first, he loved me like I was you, and in the dream, we rubbed it by the fire and it lived. Yours as ever, Mary. And I just have 3 more. This one references the summer she wrote Frankenstein with Byron and Shelley in the mountains of Switzerland. And it also references the volcanic eruption that altered the weather and the sky. Dear Mother, I was aware of you the year without a summer. The sunlight reddened. My hands too were weather backward. People looted the warehouses of grain. It rained red, but we remained corded, issued from the other. It rained 100 days. The river came to new marks. The world matched our minds, and I invented a doctor who cobbled together a man. I who copy you, Mary. Dear creature, the sea of ice was my favorite distraction. We kept a squirrel inside a box who bit me. P carried him for a while, the way he carried kindness, useless and external like a man. At night, when we read Christabel, P thought my nipples were eyes. He ran away afraid. I suppose each hole of my body is an eye, especially my mouth, repulsed by the heat of its need. Your monstrous creator, MS. Hefe, your phone. Okay, I'm gonna read one more. Dear Mother, we rent a house in Italy. Black currants stain our fingerprints. We write in red, mother and child. My skin remembers P's glyptic touch, the sex we had beside your grave. When I was 15, his words were earnest like a slingshot. We gospelized you. I prepare fermented fish. The tiny blade lifts the bones like threads. P is a genius of wonder and invention. Not one domestic task takes his attention. And I, in the kitchen, am a genius of famine. Your loving daughter, Mary Shelley. Thank you everyone for being here and listening. So many poets out there in the audience that I know. I really appreciate your presence. Thanks, Simone.
Okay, unmute. Thanks again for all of you joining us tonight for this incredible, wonderful celebration. I'm breathless with these incredible readings from everyone. Brittney and Rita and Jessica and Dorianne, who I've stand for so many years. And this is the first time I've got to hear her read. We're so grateful for your support and belief in our work. If you live in the Maryland area, we hope you'll come out to the Gaithersburg Book Festival, where I'll be reading from my JackLeg Press book, Fixed Star, which is a finalist for the 2022 Forward Indies Book of the Year Award, along with my pressmate, Melissa Studdard, whose Dear Selection Committee is a finalist for the Julie Suk Award. Again, we're all incredibly thankful for everyone's support. And thank you all for coming out for poetry. Congratulations again on your beautiful book. Jessica, you know how much I love it. I've already told you a million times. But it's very exciting to have all of us together and to hear your breathtaking reading. So thank you all and have a wonderful night.